Hello everyone, I am Aditya Sauri. Today our topic is nested structures. A structure can be embedded within another structure. In other words, when a structure is declared and processed within another structure, then it is called nested structure or structures within structure. So, what is nested structure? When we write a structure in another structure is called nested structure. So here we can see the syntax of nested structure. Now let us discuss an example with the help of this nested structure. So this is the example of structure. Already we discussed how to create a structure. So here it is a user defined data type, and in this user defined data type I created two primitive data types, and this is the variable of user defined data type. And here I created another structure called by. So here also it is a user defined data type, and in this user defined data type I created primitive data types called int and float, and this is the variable of by data type. So here I created two structures. So here hi is one other structure and by is another structure, and these two structures are not nested. So these are two different. So what we had to do to become these two structures as a nested structures. So here I created h variable. So this belongs to hi data type, and here I created a b variable, and this one belongs to by data type. So now we have to make these two different structures as a nested. So now I have to nested this hi in by. So sorry. So this is the way. So whenever we created the primitive data type hi variable in by, so now it becomes a nested. So now hi becomes a nested to by. So actually we created the variable of hi here, or we can create separately also. But when we created one structure's variable into another structure, that means like this, so now it becomes a nested. So this is the way to create a nested variable. If we create it separately, so it becomes two different structures, not nested structure. Now let us do an example. Already I wrote here. Now I am simply copying this example. So I created these structures as global. Okay, now once check this output. Okay, here we got the error float. Okay, here I wrote a wrong variable. So now I am changing these things. Okay, now let us check the output once. Okay, so enter a value. I am giving 10, name, enter a value 10.5. So here we got the correct output. Now let us see the program. Okay, here I created a structure, and here I created another structure, and I already explained how we can create a nested structure. So when we create the variable of a user defined data type into another structure, it becomes a nested. Okay, so now I will give explanation for this program. Now see, I gave here printf statement, enter a value, and now I like to store this value in A. So where we stored A? So A is stored in high data type. So what's the data type? Okay, what's the variable of this data type? So the variable of high is H. That means where H is stored in by data type. So the data type of by is B. So A is stored in H and H is stored in B. So that's why we have to write like this, B dot H dot so we have to write B dot H dot A, because A variable is stored in H, that means high, and we gave high's variable in by structure. So that's why we have to write like this only. So by using this dot operator, the value which we gave will be stored in A. So after that, another printf statement. So enter a value, and the data which we want to store is in N. So N means, so here also I created N variable in high, that means H, and where I created high variable in by. So that's why here also I have to give B dot H dot N. After that, enter a value. So now I like to store the value in A1. So where is A1? In by data type. So what's the by data types of variable? B. So that's why we have to give B dot A1. After that, enter the float value B dot F. So I like to store the value in F. So after that, at last I am printing all those values. Now let us check the output. So 20. So this value is stored in A. So this string is stored in N. So 13.5 is stored in F. So we can see the output here. So in this way we can create a nested structure and we can implement the nested structure. Now let us create three nested structures. So in this example I created a structure into another structure. Now I like to create a structure in another structure and that structure into another. So three structures will come here. Now let us see an example with this concept. So here we can see the another example of nested structure. So in this example I created three structures. One is high, another one is by, and another one is hello. So in these structures I created two primitive data types each structure. So in high I created int and char, and in by I created int and float, and here I gave h as a variable of high user defined data type. So here I nested high in by structure. So here it is nested, and I created another structure called hello. So here also it is user defined data type, and in hello I created two primitive data types. One is int and another one is char. So for by user defined data type I created b variable. So here also I nested the by in hello. So in this way I nested three structures in each other. So now let us see the program explanation, and here h1 is the variable of hello structure. So next line is printf enter a value. So now I like to store a value in A. So where is A? in high structure, but high we nested in by, and by is nested in hello. So that's why we have to follow the same process which we discussed in previous nested structures example. So where is A? So A is stored in H variable, that means high user defined data type, and high is stored in by, and by is stored in hello. So that means for each primitive data type we gave a variable. So that's why we have to give like this, h1 dot b dot h dot a. So if we give in this way, the value will be stored in A. So after that, enter a name. So I have to store a name, that means string, in n. So where n is stored? In high, that means h. So where h is stored? In b, that means by user defined data type. And where b is stored? In h1, that means hello user defined data type. So that's why I gave h1 dot b dot h dot n. So if I give like this only, the name which we given will be stored in n. So after that, another statement, enter a value. So now I like to store the value in a1. So where a1 is stored? In b. Where b is stored? h1. So now the value which we given is stored in a1. After that, enter a float value, h1 dot b dot f. So I am storing the given floating value here. After that, enter a value. So I like to store this value in a2. So where is a2? In hello structure only. So the variable of hello is h1. So that's why I gave h1 dot a2. After that, enter a character. So I like to store the character in C. So that's why I gave h1 dot c. Now I like to print all this stuff. So for each variable is different data type. So that's why I gave percentage d, percentage s, percentage d like this. And after that, I write all the variables. So the data where it is stored, it have to return back and print on the output screen. So that's why I wrote all the variables. So now I would like to print the output. Okay, enter a value. So something value 100 I am giving here. Enter a name, Sanjeev. Enter a value, another value I am giving 50. Enter a float value, that means 5.5 I am giving. Enter a value, so 25. So enter a character. Sorry, I didn't give the character. So let us check once. Percentage d. So here everything is correct. Okay, something went wrong. Let us check. So h1 dot c. So it's correct. Percentage d. Okay. So now you understand the concept, I think. Percentage h1 dot c. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, again I will run the program. So 4, 5, 3.6. Okay, so this is the concept of nested structure. Hi, I am Aditya Sauri. Today's our topic is structure and function. So in this topic we are using functions. So how to implement structures in functions. Okay, you can pass a structure as a function argument in very similar way as you pass any other variable or pointer. You would access structure variable in the similar way as you have accessed. So we can see the example which is visible on the video. Okay, now let us discuss another example. So let us write a program using functions in structures concept. Now here we can see the example of structures using functions. So here I created function prototyping because here I like to pass two integer values in program, so that's why I gave int comma int in prototyping, and my function name is fun, that's why I wrote fun here. So after that main function, and here I created strut high. So here high is the user defined data type, and in high I created two variables a comma b, and this a comma b belongs to integer data type, and the user defined data type high I created h variable. So after that printf, enter the values, scanf. So I am passing two values in a and b. So a and b is stored in user defined data type high, and the high variable is h, so that's why h dot a and h dot b. Now I created function declaration here. So and I am passing two values which is stored in a and b, and a and b belongs to structure variables, so that's why a dot h dot a and h dot b. So here I am passing two values to the function definition part, that means here. So for example, if I store 10 in a and 20 in b, so these two values passes from declaration to definition part, and we already know that the variables which we created within the function will be accessed, and outside the function it does not access it, because the variables will be worked in inside the function only, outside the function will not work. So to get the values we have to create another variables called dummy variables. So here I created dummy variables x and y. So a value will be stored in x and b value will be stored in y, and these are called as dummy variables. And of course we can create same names called a and b here also, so no need to create different variables, we can create same variable also, and we already discussed these things in functions topic. Now here I am simply adding two values. So for storing purpose I created z variable, so z equal to x plus y, so the value which is stored in x and y will be added here. So after that I am printing the value which is stored in z. So now let us run the program. So in a I am storing 10 and in b I am storing 20. Now let us check the output. So 30. So here we can see the value. So when we are passing parameters, we are passing with the structure variables only. So after that we no need to create the structure variables here, because here we are creating the variables to catch the values which are passing from this location to this location. Now let us discuss another topic in structures. So array of structures. C does not limit a programmer to storing simple data types in an array. User can define structure as an element of an array. So here we can see the syntax and the example of arrays of structures, and we already discussed what is arrays and how can we implement and how can we store values and execute the values. So already we know the advantages and disadvantages of the arrays also. Now let us see an example how we can implement an array in structures. Here we can see the example of structures using arrays. So here I created the structure, and high is the data type, already we know this thing, and in this structure I created two primitive data types, one is int and another one is char. for int I gave a variable, and for x I gave, so for char I gave x variable, and for user defined data type hi I created h. So here h is the structure variable, and for this structure variable I used arrays also. For looping purpose I used I variable. And now let us see the coding of this program. Okay, enter roll number. So we have to store now 5 values. So by using arrays we can store more than one value in a single variable. So we already know this thing. So for storing more than one value only, here I am using for loop, and now we have to store the value in a. So where a is stored in h. So here h is the structure variable, and in a we have to store the value. So that's why we have to use dot operator, and we have to connect the structure variable and the integer variable. So that means we have to write h dot a. But in previous programs we used it normally, but in this concept we are using array concept. So and I like to store 5 values, so that's why I created size 5 here. So and I use the looping purpose. So from 0 to 5 I am running a loop. So why I have to run the loop from 0? Because in arrays the size we created is 5, so that means it created 5 indexes value to store each value in each index, and the default value of index, the starting value of index is 0 and the ending value is 4. So I equal to 0, 0 less than 5 condition true. If the condition is true, it jumps to scanf statement. So we are storing a value in h of 0 position, because in I 0 is there, so that's why in h of 0 dot a we are storing one value. After that I plus plus I value 1 less than 5 condition true. If the condition is true, another value we are storing in h of 1 position. After that I plus plus I value 2 less than 5 condition true. So now we are storing another value in h of 2 position dot a. So like this way we are storing 5 values, and after that enter student name. So here we are storing the strings, that means group of characters. So because here I created char and I created x variable for the char data type, and I gave 10 size, so we can create strings. So as per our program requirements, enter student name. So same looping concept, I equal to 0, 0 less than 5. If the condition is true, in h of 0 position one string is stored. After that I plus plus I value 1 less than 5 condition true. If the condition is true, in h of 1 position we are storing another string. After that I plus plus I value 2 less than 5 condition true. After that it jumps here, and in h of second position dot x we are storing another string. So in this way we can store 5 strings in a single variable. So after that I am printing all the data which we stored in the particular variables. Now let us check the output. So enter roll number, I am giving 1 2 3 4 5. So here I am giving 5 values as roll numbers. Now enter student name. So I am giving here 5 student names. So first one Sunil, Siva, Hari, Sai. So here I gave 5 values as roll numbers and 5 strings as student names. Now we can see the output. So student details 1, Sunil 2, Siva 3, Hari. So in this way we can store more data. It may be a character, it may be a integer, it may be a float value. We can store this entire data in a single variable by using structures. So in general concepts in arrays, we can store single type of data, maybe an integer, maybe a character. But in structures, we can store different types of data at a time. So in this example, I stored numbers and strings at a time.